Back in 2008, Ubisoft decided to reboot the Prince of Persia franchise and take it in a new direction to a mixed response. Whilst the gaming media enjoyed the new cel-shaded art style and the game's simplicity, myself and other fans of the PS2 trilogy felt they'd oversimplified the game and wished they'd just stuck with the previous formula that had found them success. So here we are, 16 years later, and with Ubisoft set to reboot the series for the third time with the release of The Lost Crown, I decided to go back and replay the 2008 reboot and also grab that shiny platinum trophy whilst I'm at it. Since I already had 8 trophies from when I originally played the game, there were only 42 I needed to get the platinum. As usual, I decided it best to experience the game blind and not look up any of the trophies beforehand. The game opens with the prince looking for his lost donkey when our soon-to-be sidekick Elga falls into his arms whilst fleeing a group of guards. And the very first thing I noticed in this game was the prince's voice actor, Nolan North. That's right, the man who voiced Desmond Miles and Nathan Drake is playing the Prince of Persia, and whilst he does a good job and his voice is suited to the prince's quick-witted, loudmouth personality, which is very similar to that of Nathan Drake's, I don't know, the Persian prince having such a strong American accent is reminiscent of that time John Wayne played Genghis Khan.
Your hatred will kindle into love.
Before that day dawns, Mongol, the vultures will have feasted on your heart.
Surely they could have found an actor with a Persian Iranian accent. I mean, who are they going to have play the prince next? Jake Gyllenhaal?
The true Prince of Persia.
Ah, for fucks. The tutorial has us following Elga, doing some basic parkour before learning the combat, which is very simple. Square for a sword attack, circle to grab, X for an acrobatic attack, and a little later in the game, triangle for a magic attack, but we'll talk about that later. When the guards destroy a bridge resulting in the prince falling to his inevitable death, Elga reveals her magic abilities by saving him, something she'll be doing quite a lot. We seek refuge in a temple where it's then revealed that Elga is actually a princess and her dad the king comes in to take her away. After getting slapped around, he takes the lost well and cuts down the Tree of Life, which had Ahriman, the god of darkness, sealed inside. With the evil darkness having spread and taken over the lands, it's now up to us to cleanse each of the 4 regions. After this introduction, we're given access to almost the whole map, and the gameplay loop is simple although repetitive. Traverse the dark and destroyed area, reach the fertile ground which will be guarded by one of Ahriman's 4 generals, beat them, cleanse the area and collect some light seeds as you move on to the next area. Collecting enough light seeds will allow Elga to learn new traversal abilities which will allow us to use power plates and access fertile grounds that were out of reach. After cleansing the 4 fertile grounds in a region, a gate will open allowing us to access the 5th and final one, which can be cleansed after killing whichever general has been guarding the grounds in that region. Now usually in these videos I like to walk you through the whole story and then interrupt when any trophies pop or something of note happens. But because there's no linear path and the story is mostly told through optional conversations with Elga, we'll have to switch it up for this video. On my first playthrough I unlocked 25 trophies, taking us to 33 out of 50 needed for the platinum. 14 were unmissable, 1 for killing each of Ahriman's 4 generals, 5 for collecting enough light seeds to finish the game, reaching the highest point in the game which pops after killing the alchemist, cleansing all 24 fertile grounds, visiting all areas which pops as soon as you enter the last room heading into the final boss fight, and then the last 2 for finishing the story, which I suppose I'll rant about now. So over the course of playing the game, it started to grow on me, and I was thinking about what I would say in this video. How the game's art style allowed it to age well, how I started to enjoy the simplicity of the game and actually found it incredibly relaxing, the only downside being the combat. But the game's ending might be one of the worst I've ever experienced, and that is saying something. After spending just under 9 hours going through the entire map and clearing all the darkness, we go and fight Ahriman. The boss fight is just climbing to 3 fertile grounds inside the temple whilst avoiding the darkness, which makes sense I suppose. If he is this evil devil-like figure in Persian mythology, we're not going to try and fight him with our sword. After we defeat him, Elga uses her powers to seal him back in the tree, but to do so, she must sacrifice herself.
We did it! Elga, we did it! Elga?
It's then a very sombre moment of the prince carrying her lifeless body outside and putting her to rest as the credits roll. a lovely story about two strangers coming together to save the world from evil, forming a relationship on the way and one having to make the ultimate sacrifice. However, the game doesn't end there. After, we as the prince must go cut down the tree that Elga just gave her life to forge and use the light seed we get from it to bring her back to life. And the game ends with us carrying her into the desert with Ahriman unleashed onto the world. What the fuck? And my recording didn't mess up, by the way. The FPS absolutely tanks in this final cutscene. And if that ending wasn't bad enough, they decided to release an epilogue only on console a year later for £8, which I had to Google what happens because I sure as fuck ain't buying it. And in it, the prince explains he did it because someone was going to release them again eventually, and they two are the only ones who can destroy him for good and not just seal him away. However, by the end of the DLC, Ahriman has grown too powerful for Elga, so she just leaves to try and find her own people. I for one hope that the writing team that created this absolute mess of an ending never so much as writes a fucking to-do list for the rest of their lives. Anyway, apologies, that really annoyed me. Back to the trophies. Since I beat the game in under 12 hours, I unlocked the Speed Demon trophy, but after the credits rolled, I also get Be Gentle, which is for beating the game with Elga saving me less than 100 times, which I will fully admit I did not deserve, as there was times I was killing myself on purpose just to get to hard to reach light seeds. So we definitely got lucky with that one that it glitched in our favour. We get 6 of the combat related trophies for mostly doing simple stuff like deflecting 20 attacks, using the environment against an enemy, killing 10 enemies before they could fully spawn in, and throwing 10 enemies to their death, which could probably be considered unmissable with how often it happens even by accident. 2 are from boss fights though, for beating the alchemist without using an acrobatic attack, and beating the concubine without using a grab, which sadly for me meant I'd missed a trophy against the 2 other generals, and another playthrough would be needed. There were also 2 missable trophies I got just for talking to Elga, along with one for collecting 600 light seeds, and that rounds out the 25 trophies unlocked on my initial playthrough. My next step was to get all 1001 light seeds spread throughout the map, which would get me 4 trophies whilst also grabbing any miscellaneous ones on the way. Thankfully I made a save before going into the final fight, so was able to continue from there with my 600 seeds. In total, it took me 5.5 hours to find the remaining seeds, and since I was backtracking throughout the entire map, I was also able to pop the trophies for completing 500 co-op jumps, finding the Assassin's View along with the Titanic View. After finding all 1000 light seeds in the map, we then had to replay the final boss fight to get the last seed from the tree that we cut down. But before that, I had to hold Elga's dead body for a minute. Yeah, I don't understand this trophy either. After it pops, we lay her down, cut the tree, and we have all 1001 light seeds collected. Look how happy he is. As a reward for collecting them all, we get access to these new prototype skins for the Prince and Princess, and it was now time to tackle the speed trophies. I originally thought these would be the hardest of the remaining trophies, but surprisingly the time for each run is quite generous. You have to run from one fertile ground to the opposite one in each of the 4 regions, and I'll throw the times up on screen, but I managed to beat them all first time despite making multiple mistakes. After that I grabbed the trophy for visiting the lowest point in the game, which is hidden behind the temple. So now I only had 4 trophies left to get the platinum, all of which were combat related. 2 for doing something specific in a fight against Ahriman's generals that I missed, and the other 2 were for performing all possible combos and pulling off a 14-hit combo. Since my only save was right before the final fight, I had to start a new game to find enemies and decided to rock my new Sands of Time skin. First up was deflecting 5 of the hunter's attacks in one fight, and I also managed to get a large majority of my combos done in this. When fighting against regular enemies, you run the risk of them getting too close to a wall or ledge and getting an insta-kill on them, which stops the combo from being counted. So I would use a combo, fail a QTE which would trigger his health regen, but this only worked so many times before he lost the ability to regen health. After him it was time for the warrior, and the trophy is for dodging 20 of his attacks, and how I didn't pop this during the original final fight with him, I have no idea. But it is fairly simple, just roll around for a few minutes and that's us done. You can't damage him with your weapons, so I'd need to wait until the next boss fight, which was with the concubine, to try and get some combos going, because I got a 13-hit combo twice against regular enemies before they fell to their death, and I could not handle it happening a third. After 2.5 hours, I finally popped the Combo Specialist trophy for using every possible combo in the game, and just over half an hour after that I managed to pull off my 14-hit combo, and we finally got the Platinum trophy for Prince of Persia. Usually I like to do a mini review at the end of my videos, but honestly, the quicker I get to move on from this game the better. It's a decent relaxing game with beautiful music, but the combat and story really let the game down. Hopefully the writers from this were kept well away from the Lost Crown and it does well, as Prince of Persia is up there with Splinter Cell as a series that I've been begging Ubisoft to bring back. But thank you for making it to the end of the video. I've been pretty sick again these last few days, so I've had to rush this video last minute to try and get it out before the Lost Crown releases. And this will probably be my last PS3 game that I do for a little while because the delay on trophies popping is incredibly annoying when trying to edit a video, but hopefully you guys enjoyed it, and I'll see you all in the next one. Much love, peace.